What's up, guys? For those of you that don't know me, my name is Stephen Keeney, and I have a small channel here on YouTube where I teach videos that pertain to boxing and other martial arts within the striking arts. Now, today I want to dive deep into the topic of the jab. And if you've done striking or boxing to any extent for any period of time, you probably know that the jab is the most important punch in boxing. And I sort of want to get into why that is, but also teach you how to do the jab, but also how to use the jab. And maybe bring some details about the jab that you may not know if you're someone with minimal experience, or even if you're an advanced guy, maybe just a review, because it's always good to get back to the basics, because understand that when it comes to striking, especially boxing, there really is no such thing as basics and advanced. A lot of it is basics and the way you use them to accomplish more advanced things. So let's get into it. Okay, so starting off, what's the most obvious reason why the jab is the most important punch in boxing? Well, to break it down very simple for the newer guys, if I'm in the, let's say, righty stance, so my lead hand, my jab hand is my left hand, whether I'm facing a southpaw or a righty, my left lead hand is the closest punch to them. The same way their lead hand is going to be the closest punch to me. So it makes sense that this punch right here, my jab, is going to have less distance to travel than my rear side weapons, right? When I'm in this posture with my jab where chin is being covered by my shoulder, my hand is fully extended out, I'm getting the most range off of my arm, my right hand is covering my chin, everything is looking good, I'm least exposed versus some of the other punches that may open me up potentially if I decide to lead off with them. Now, what's another thing that this jab is doing for me in relation to my rear side? It's a rangefinder, right? And what that means is, if I'm touching this bag, because I can see in front of me, I'm touching that white dot I have printed on the bag. If I were to close my eyes right now from this position, I could land my right knowing where the bag is, because now I'm not just using my sense of sight, I'm using my sense of feel. I have an idea of where my hands are. So if my left hand can make contact with the opponent, I know now that I'm in the correct punching range to follow up with my other punches. Now, what else is this jab doing for me? It's a blinder for my opponent. You see, my opponent, when he looks at me, sees this point of view. He sees me in my guard. If I can stick my glove in his face, it's harder for him to just initiate his offense when he needs to first get past this jab. And that's why you have different types of jabs. You have your snap jab that's usually meant to be quick. But you also have like a nice stiff or stick jab that can sort of be put right in his face, right near the eyes, to just give him something to think about so he's not just bullying you. Because you see, when you're standing in front of an opponent, when you're, let's say, boxing or sparring, typically speaking, you're not just going to stand in range where you can hit them, because they can hit you. So most of the time when two people of equal skill or boxing, there's sort of that respect where you're standing that one step distance away from each other. If you have your gloves up and you don't have any kind of jab established, you're not giving them any deterrent why they can't just take that space and throw on you. See, if I was boxing, the bag right now, and he's not giving me anything to deter me, I'll just take this space, step in, and throw. Now, lastly, what else is this doing for me, right? These taps that I'm giving the bag, these jabs. It's not a hard jab, it's not a fast jab, it's not a stick jab, it's a probing jab. The point of the probing jab is that if I'm going to initiate offense, maybe by them, countering my jab, they're going to expose to me what their preferred counter of the jab is. So now I can sort of work a game plan for when I throw a jab, they're showing me what counter they're going to use on my jab. So now maybe I could counter their counter. So for an example, if I were going to throw a jab and they were going to, catch my jab and throw their jab, let's say it's another righty, I can build in some kind of counter for the counter where I can throw the jab, slip their jab, come with my right, or something like that. So that would be the point of the probing jab. All right, now with gloves off, let's talk about how to throw a good jab, right? I'm going to really break this down in detail for guys that have never done this before, or guys that just want to sharpen the jab that they already have if it's mediocre at best. Assuming you're in a good boxing stance, right? I just want to quickly recap. Your weight distribution should be like 50-50 for your rear leg and your front leg. So typically speaking, you want that center of gravity right below you. So my head position should sort of match that center of gravity. I don't want to be too heavy on the front foot to begin with, and I don't want to be too heavy on the back foot, although if you were going to be a little bit heavy on the front or the back, it's probably recommendable to be a little bit more heavy on the rear foot. So let's just say I'm in that neutral head position, 50-50, right? And I got my hands up. What you're going to do is to initiate the jab, instead of only thinking about engaging your left hip to send this hand forward, I want you to simultaneously think about your right side and how you're going to pull it back to assist this motion, okay? But when you do this, you really want to pay attention to your left elbow, the jab side you're going to be throwing with. You don't want to lead off with your elbow here. This is a big mistake because typically speaking, if you're going to throw a jab, you don't want to have this giveaway because it's a lot easier for someone's brain to process this elbow moving, and that's a tell for the jab, than if your hand goes from A to B, the quickest path, the path of least resistance, and that has the less giveaway. But like I said, we don't want to get lazy with our right side. So instead of just sticking this jab out with just my left hand, that would be considered an arm punch. We want to engage this hip and turn. So we want to pull that side back. When you first practice this, you want to try to make large circles with your hips. Like imagine I have a hula hoop around me, right? So I'm very exaggerated. And then imagine we take that ring and we shrink it into like a pull with a shorter distance. Now it's small. So it's exaggerated to learn, right? I'm not flaring the elbow. I'm just turning into it. And then small. But now let's talk about the extension of the arm and what to do once the punch actually gets out there. So normally, if you're going to have closed fists all the time, you're going to carry a lot of tension. You're going to burn yourself out. Also, it's hard to go from stiff to more stiff to produce speed and power. So what you want to do is from having your hands either open inside the gloves or almost as if you were holding an egg somewhere in between a fist and an open hand. You're going to do that hip motion, send the hand out. You're going to start to turn the wrist. And from about here to here, you're going to clench. Okay? Right there. Right? So I'm relax, 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 tense, 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 tense as I can. And you want to land your jab with give or take 85 to 90% extension. What I mean by that is you want to land somewhere about here. You don't want to hyperextend your arm because if you're already at 100% when you meet your target, all the speed and power is diminished. So you want to find that nice comfortable distance where you're not jamming the jab, but you're using the full length of your arm, okay? Now also too, I said to pull your right side back, except what I don't want you to do is this right hand, I don't want you to pull it past your face, so now your face is open. Ideally, what you want to do is keep this right hand up and be able to engage your right hip going back to assist your left hip, but also keep this elbow tucked and this hand to the face. So like this, ready? I'm not going like this. I'm not going like this. I'm just going like this. I'll show you from this angle. The elbow's not flaring. It's right there. And I'm clenching in the last minute, which is why it might be good to practice this lightly on a bag with no gloves just to get good at understanding when to clench. Because if you go up to a bag and you're just doing fingers, you'll know right away it's not truly a punch. You want to make it into a punch. Moving down to the waist and the legs when you do this, right? Normally when you're in a boxing stance to begin with, if you guys don't already know this, you don't really want to be flat with both feet. You sort of want to keep your lead foot flat, but have the right foot a little bit of disconnection to the floor with your rear heel. Now, it doesn't always have to be like that up on the ball of the foot, fatiguing your calf, but you want to keep it a little bit raised. So what this will allow you to do is when you throw this jab, depending on how much hip turn you give, this rear foot can sort of twist a little bit. Not necessarily it has to be this ferocious leg twist, but it can just, as you do the hip motion, allow the leg to just seamlessly move with it. So as I'm pulling back on my right side, my right knee can just turn a little bit. Floyd Mayweather calls this the pivot, which that's what you're doing. You don't want to imagine like squishing a bug and making it like this rough motion. It's just all going together. And the same thing with my lead leg. It's not turning all the way. I'm not breaking my knee. I'm just a little bit of a turn. That's how you throw a jab. Except what I just demonstrated was considered a stationary jab. What you also have is a step jab, right? So before I was saying, if I'm standing outside of that range with this guy, you know, my jab is going to be here. It's not reaching him. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to take a small step with my lead foot in order to jab him. And I want to make sure that my foot and my hand are essentially moving together. If anything, my hand might lag behind my foot just a little bit. I wouldn't want to reach the guy with my hand before my foot, but I don't want to step and throw either and have this period of time. I sort of want them to almost look as if they're perfectly together, even if my foot is landing a little bit before my hand. So I'll demonstrate that. Pop. That's your step jab. Now the thing with the step jab is, and this is a big mistake people make, you don't want to ever really go into a lunge, because the problem is when you go into a lunge, you're diminishing your power, and also you don't have the ability to come back as quickly. If your stance, assuming it's already not too wide to begin with, you just want to step a little bit that it's still comfortable. You see how I'm driving some weight on that front foot, but I'm not lunging, right? I'm just kind of stepping subtly and the hand comes out. So that's like the perfect distance for me in the length of my arm. You need to just get in a bag, get with a mitt holder, and find the distance that you're comfortable with. Because remember, boxing is a game of inches. I'm not starting way out here and lunging all the way like karate. I'm talking if you can make contact with the bag, you take that small step back right there, you're already out of their range. You're that one step distance away from touching this guy. And then, like I said, once you touch this guy, now you know you can follow up with other punches. But what is the benefit of the step jab? I'm able to remain out of range, throw a jab to elicit some kind of a reaction or follow up, but I can get out again, right? So normally the way it would work is I can do one of two things. I can either leave this foot behind when I throw this step jab so that I can bring my foot back. See, I'm narrow. I widen my stance a bit and I step back. Or you can step forward with both feet, and then both feet would have to move back. Is one or the other better? Not necessarily. There could be an argument made that leaving one foot behind gives you a better, leaves you in a better position to get yourself back out. There could be an argument made that bringing the second foot forward has you in a better position to throw the right straight away. But this is where we get into the more advanced deep stuff. You see, if I'm already very wide, right? But I'm out of their range. I'm that one step range. The problem is, look what I just did. I'm already wide. I got to get even wider to touch this guy. Where if I'm already a little bit narrow, my stance isn't compromised to go a little bit wider. So a lot of this comes back to the footwork and the stance and shows how everything plays off of each other. Your stance can't really be that wide if you want to utilize a step jab. You got to sort of have a little bit of a narrow stance to begin with so you can step in. If you want to do the version where you leave that foot behind. If you want, you can move both feet, right? So I'm here, got a little bit of a bounce. I bounce in, I bounce out, or I can follow up. The other way that you can lead off with a jab is to step jab to the body. Now, what would be good about step jabbing to the body? Well, for one thing, when I'm in this posture here and I'm upright, I'm stepping forward, but my head is still in the center line. So there's a very good chance that even though I'm leaving this back leg for safety behind me to come back and pull back, I could get caught coming in. Or I could throw my jab and simultaneously get caught by something as I'm moving in, right? So I'd be here, I'd step, and right here in this position, I'd get hit. So one thing you could do is you can lead off with the jab to the body, in which you're bringing your head off of the center line. So normally if I was in a stance here and I would slip, I'm basically going to do that as I give a little bit of a step and throw my jab to the body. So here, there. And another thing too is you don't want to bend too much from the waist. That gets more into the idea of how to be good at head movement, but you're sort of bending a little at the knee, the right knee specifically. So I'm going to bend in the front knee to elongate my stance a little bit, but I'm bending also the right knee to get my head here. And you don't want to do it one after another, right? I don't want to step, throw my head down. I want to try to keep them more so in one motion. So I'll show you from this angle. Here, here, here. And notice, same idea. I'm keeping this hand up because I don't want to eat a hook as I come down. Because if they get a sense of your patterns, they might have something waiting for you. So far we did 3 different jabs. We did the standard jab where I'm already in range. We did a little bit of a step jab. And now we did a body jab where we stepped in. Now notice you could probably get a little bit of distance with the body jab, but at the same time, you don't want to lunge. You don't want to ever throw this jab where you're lunging, okay? Because then you're just compromised. You're not going to be able to get back to your stance quick enough if something goes south. Another viable option is that you can throw your jab to the head while taking that small step and having your head off the center line. What is this good for? Well, if you're boxing someone and every time you jab, before you can get back, you're getting cracked, one option you could do is jab to the head with your head off the center line. Now, if there's anything waiting for you, your head's going to be essentially out of the way, okay? But usually you can also do what's called doubling up on the jab and mix these different methods, right? So let's just start with the double jab, just the simple double jab. I'm already in range, right? I'm going to throw a jab. I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to throw a jab. But now the way to approach the double jab is instead of thinking it like full extension, pull back, full extension, a lot of times what people will do is to try to have the beats go boom, boom instead of bum, bum, is they'll actually pull the jab back about halfway and then pop it again. So normally if you're always leading off with one jab, pop, full extension, pop, full extension, it sort of subverts expectations and you pop another jab in their face. Pop, pop. See? The same thing. You don't want a chicken wing. You want to come from here. Pop, pop. If you get really fast and powerful, you could do 2 quick full extension jabs if you wanted to. Pop, pop, right? It's just that the lag time in between the two of them might be a little bit longer. So it's all about the purpose of why it is you're doing it. Whether it's to deter them or whether it's to just set something else. Like I said, the jab's very versatile. Same thing with the double jab. It does a lot of different things. What I could do is I could approach this bag and instead of throwing a double jab both to the head, I could change levels, right? So I can go pop, pop. So what I would do is I would jab to the head. I would drop at the knees in this new position, throw to the body. Or I could do it reversed. I could step in with the body jab, come up, throw to the head. I can throw to the head, get my head off center line, throw the head again, right? I'll show you that in like a fast motion. Pop, pop. So there's just different ways to use the double jab, but mix the different variations of the jab. Also, if you want to even try more variations is, out of your head movement, when you have weight over your lead leg, you can kind of throw the jab from the left angle. There's a lot of different ways to work the jabs. The one thing you got to remember when you're trying to pop these jabs off quick and efficiently, you have a certain set of muscles that you use on your left side to get this jab out. And then you have a certain set of muscles on your left side that you use to get this jab back. When you're throwing this jab out on your left side, assuming your right side's helping out, still on your left side, you want to send it out with those muscles, but you want to relax the muscles that normally you would use to pull it in, like your back. But now from this position, those muscles you use to send it out, those pushing muscles, you want to relax those and then engage the pulling muscles to pull this back in, right? So you're having a push and a pull. And the best way to get your jab as fast as you can is to understand when to use and relax the certain muscles. Because like I said before, if your hand's stiff in your guard and you send it out stiff and you pull it back stiff, it is never going to be efficient. It is never going to have a lot of power. It's never going to be that fast. You really need to learn how to relax, which is why I recommend having a hand open, sending it out with those pushing muscles, clench, right, tightness. As soon as you make contact, relax. Use the pulling muscles to pull it back in. And then eventually, if you do this right, what it will look like is a nice snap. But the way to also get that snap perfect is the same way I said pull this right side back when you jab, assuming everything else is right. Now when you pull this hand back in, engage your right side forward. So even though it's one punch, it's 2 motions. It's A, B, A, B. And if you were popping off a double jab, it's almost essentially like 4 motions. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. You see how that works. And like I said, it doesn't have to be robotic. Remember, learn with the big cylinder. and then make it small and pop those punches off quick. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is, like I said, we're getting very into the jab here. This is beginner to advanced. Like, we're going to investigate a few different things. The idea of making adjustments with your jab. Understand that a lot of times when you're leading off with a jab, let's say, the position of a guy's hands will have a lot to do with how you lead off. If the guy is very squared up and he's giving you a bit of a window, it's going to make sense to try to shoot your jab straight through that window. If a guy's a little bit more bladed, you may be looking to flank his angles. So that's why people will typically move in boxing. You can check out my footwork video, and they jab. And a lot of people move and then jab, but a lot of people don't jab while moving. And the way you would do this is, if I'm facing you and I want to basically be here jabbing you on an angle, the only way for me to maybe pop this off and sort of beat you to the punch is I got to take my back leg, I got to pull it back a little bit more than my left leg. So I'm not just pivoting with the lead foot in place. The lead foot is moving a bit, but I'm initiating the motion with my rear leg by pushing off lightly. You see what I did there, where I lightly pushed off the outer part of my right foot and just lightly caught myself with the left leg and then rotated. And what I want to look to do is throw my jab while that's going on, like so. Okay? So you see how I'm in front of them. I may be throwing, probing. Now this gets into the idea of working angles in general and the principles of working angles, but understand usually when you want to work an angle from the outside, it's going to be harder to get out of their field of view. It's going to be very easy for them to just adjust and match whatever direction you angle around them. So what you got to do is you have to get them to freeze for a moment. And usually there's no better way to do that than, guess what? With the jab. So from facing them, I'm going to lead off with a good jab. And then right in this moment, for my second jab, is when I'm going to hit the footwork and get the angle. So I can show you on the bag, for example, right? I'm on one angle. Bah! And then I assume the new angle. I'll show you a little bit faster motion. Okay? And understand that premise of you're not moving and then jabbing. You're jabbing while you move. Because now, instead of just being able to jab moving straight, you can jab to your left side. And likewise, even remaining in your righty stance, you can jab to the left side. Same idea. You don't want to just move, stop, jab, move, stop, jab. You want to be able to effectively jab moving in that direction. And that's why I saved this for the jab video, because the footwork is very important and you need the footwork first. You need to know how to effectively move to the right and effectively move to the left on a hard angle. But then you slowly learn to bring the jab into that. So now you're popping them as you're rolling out. Another noteworthy adjustment that you can make on the fly while you're sparring. Now, let's say normally you're in this jab posture and your hand is right where it needs to be. It's not really in the front, but it's not really on the side. It's sort of in that happy medium. Depending on what they're trying to counter you with, that might dictate the way that you're going to adjust this right hand's position. For example, if every time you lead off with a jab, they're throwing a check left hook, and they're trying to get a piece of your headgear, a piece of your head, you may lead in raising this right hand. So from here, with the hand just comfortably by the chin, you might raise it a bit, right? You might raise it a bit. However, if every time you throw a jab, maybe he's a little taller than you, he's trying to come over the top, or maybe he's splitting your jab and throwing something like a cross or his own jab, well, then it makes sense that you can maybe try to get that right hand in front of you here like a catcher's mitt, you see? Because if I'm eating the same punch over and over again, and the hand position that I'm normally working with isn't covering me, well, then all you got to do is try to adjust based off of what he's trying to counter you with. And a smart boxer will usually try to diversify their counters and not counter with the same thing over and over. But I'm just saying, you have options. You don't always have to be so stuck in the hand needs to be here, or the hand should be here, or the hand should be here. There's a lot of debate out there. And the truth is, a lot of times it's just very dependent on what you're seeing in front of you. You'll have your solid jab, but then you get into the idea of feinting, and the sort of half jab that can serve as a feint can maybe elicit the same reaction that a jab would, and you draw out his counter. So now instead of you being in this full step jab posture getting hit in range, you can sort of just feint the jab, also using the same foot as a feint. So the way normally they'd work together, now you're using the fact that you've established your step jab to fake the step jab, selling it by using the foot and the hand. See that? See, that's the full extension, that's the fake. So there's a lot of different adjustments you can make. That pretty much sums it up. I mean, the jab is something that I could probably even do like a part 2 to this. There's so much that goes into it, but I really just wanted to give you guys a good general outline of everything involving the jab and what you can do with it, and also give you an explanation of why it's the most important punch of boxing. Like, you hear people say that all the time, but a lot of times they give you like some little half-ass explanation. Their jab themselves maybe doesn't even look that good, and then you're kind of just on your way and you got to figure this shit out for yourself. So I hope this helps, guys. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to be trying to put out more videos in my series for how to box, but also try to bring you these deep dive explanation videos that I hope really can help you guys along the way. Comment, subscribe, like, share. Stay tuned.